Welcome to All the Buzz. This is the show that's new in town, but we're attracting a great deal of interest, and this is our St. Patrick's Day edition of the show. And we've gone international. Lester, do you know what this is?
It's for stirring porridge. It's an Irish.
McNaughton Hurleys. Is it a hurling or curling or? Curling is hurling. It's a sport in Ireland.
Yeah.
And so for the St. Patrick's Day show, we couldn't get to Ireland, but we did get to England, and we brought Lester Morris in as our guest. Lester has had an amazing life, and he's taught us some English vocabulary. One of his favorite terms is dip me bread.
Dip in your bread.
Dip in your bread. And tell us what that one means.
Well, it's mainly in London where I used to work. Dip in your bread means having sex.
Oh, having sex.
And then when I came to this country, I was in a restaurant. This young lady put a little bowl of stuff down, and I said, "What's that?" This here's some oil to dip your bread. I said, "I love this country."
Well, Lester may even share his experience about learning how to dip your bread later in our interview. But his life is so amazing, his childhood so rough, growing up in the orphanages of World War II England. And Lester, interestingly enough, with all the pain he went through in childhood, one of his careers was as Santa Claus. And as somebody put it to me, he's the best Santa Claus in the world. Actually, when I met you, Lester, I was at the University of Texas where I worked as an academic advisor, and I decided to take a filmmaking class, and I realized I had none of the technical skills. And I met Lester in a video store, and he immediately started performing, and I said, "Hey, you can really help me out. Can I make a video about you?" So we went to your house. You were in Santa getup, I believe, or at least a red shirt. We had you in an uncomfortable chair, and you told us a couple of stories, and my video was a great success. And that is because Lester is a master communicator, and perhaps the most important thing he's ever communicated is the truth about a very painful, challenging childhood, triumphant as well. And we're going to learn the second half of his orphanage experience, where he sort of went from bad to worse, from the frying pan into the fire, when you went to, what's it called, Brockhurst?
Yeah.
Home, and you call it Brockhurst hell. And the one story that really stood out was he wet the bed, probably from the trauma of coming to this new orphanage, and they humiliated you badly for that. They didn't even cover your head with the wet sheet. And then you got a further punishment task, I believe, was to clean everybody's shoes. And maybe you can take us from there to how this led to your escape or attempt to escape to freedom.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a long story in itself, but one of the things that we used to do at this is the Leicester, in the more or less the centre of England. It's where they recently buried that Richard III, you know. And we used to go to school and then have lunch there and then come back to the orphanage, do some work and go back again. Then we weren't allowed to play in the play yard with the other kids. And this was one of the occasions where, when I went back to the orphanage, instead of going back to school, I went across the road to where my brother was working at this hotel in the kitchen. And I asked him if he's got any money, because I'm going to run away. And he gave me a ½ crown coin. That's all he had, you know. And he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I don't know." And I went to the railway station, and it was quite dramatic down there. I went to this window, and it says inquiries, and I said, I want to get a ticket to London. And I said, "I've only got this," and I gave ½ crown. I said, "Well, you need more than that." And I said, "I lost my money on the bus." And she said, "You better go to this window here," which was inquiries, made inquiries there, and "You better come with me." And so they took me to, and as I went through this door, along the front of the door, it got police on it. And as soon as I saw that, I was like Steve Volkswagen running down the station, and 3 policemen with their whistles, there's policemen's whistle, telling me to stop, and I was jumping over, luggage in the platform, and eventually I hit this old lady, knocked her down, and I helped her up, and that's when the police took me. And anyway, so from there, because I ran away, I was in all this trouble, and you get punishment jobs, cleaning all the shoes. You got 24 kids in the house plus the staff. You have to clean all their shoes, and sometimes I wouldn't get to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning because of cleaning, especially when it was wet and muddy. And there was one time there when I was fed up in there, and the master would put his shoes in there, and I was dying to go to the toilet, and so I peed in the master's shoes. Tipped it out, and sort of like a little bit of revenge there. I don't know whether he ever found out. He never said anything. But and then I was also doing the boilers, where you stoke up the boilers, and that was. And then it's from after that I got shipped to another orphanage. But one of the things about the Leicester orphanage is, as soon as you walk in the front door, there's this beautiful stair rail. That as soon as you walk in there, the first thing you thought as a kid, I'd love to slide down that. Even if you thought about sliding down that, you'd be in trouble. And I never did get to slide on it. But when I was in the army, I came back on leave and I went there, and the orphanage was mixed, different set up altogether. And I said to the woman there, I kept looking, I said, can I slide down the bed? Okay, children, get off the stairs. Let's there we go. There. And I slid down there, and they all cheered. And can I go again? I said, yeah. And I went up again, and I threw my shoulders back when I left there. That yes, I did it.
You finally did.
Now the orphanage has been knocked down, and so that was the end of that. And then I went to another orphanage up in Hunstanton in Norfolk, which was a complete change.
More positive, huh?
And you called the master and matron uncle and auntie, not master and matron. Mm-hmm. That made a big difference.
A little bit friendlier. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so you had mentioned to me that you joined an organization like it was called the Young People's or the Young Army.
It was called the Junior Leaders.
Junior Leaders.
And that's where children from 15 onwards can join the army, and you're treated and you act just like you're in the regular army, so that when you reach the age of 18, you're already trained and you're already halfway through, and you move straight into adult service. And this is for people who want to make the military a career. That's what I wanted to do.
So you were at Hunstanton at the time, and you were in this organization.
Well, I
Junior
moved
Leaders
down to Devon. It was down in Devon, and that's when I got this a telegram to the commanding officer, and I was much before him, and he said, "Well, it appears here I got a letter from your father. He said he wants you home." I said, "Excuse me, sir, I haven't got a father." I said, I've been raised in an orphan. No. He said, "Your father's been trying to contact you, and he's tracked you down to here, and he wants you home." I got a father, and I just couldn't get over.
I bet.
That I got a father.
Amazing.
And he said, "You could either leave the army with no stain on your record, or you can go on compassionate leave and visit." And I said, "If he wants me, I'll go." And that was my biggest mistake, by giving up my career to go to him, because he was a worthless, and I found out the only reason he wanted me there was because I was old enough to earn money.
Yes, you described that incredibly well. The shock of going to the house, and your father was there living with a woman, right? Describe that.
But, if you can imagine going to see your father for the first time, and I'm walking towards the house, and I've got this little crumpled bit of paper with the address on it, and I've opened it that many times, it's getting a bit frail, and then eventually I find the house, and it was a bit not like I was expecting, but I knocked on the front door, and a rough voice says, "Go in the back." And I went round the back, and there was a little dumpy lady there, and she said, "You must be Les," And I said, "Are you my mother?" "No," she said, "I'm not your mother." She said, "I live with your dad." And he said, "He's in there waiting to see you." And I went in there, and he was sitting in front of the fire reading a newspaper, and Mrs. Smith said, "Your son is here to see you." He turned the corner of the page down without lowering the paper and glanced over. He said, "Oh, you're here. Mrs. Smith here will make you a cup of tea."
Wow.
And he carried on reading it. That was my welcome.
Whoa.
And there I froze. And I always remember one of my doctor cardiologists, when he's reading a book, he kept saying to himself, "Hope he goes back to the army, hope he goes back." And that's what I should have done. And I didn't, and I regret that. There's a lot of things in life that, you end up regretting, and that was one of the main.
Well, it's totally understandable that for a guy that never knew his parents meets his father, that right in that moment, he's not able to choose a specific decision to change that completely in one day, right?
Right.
So you tell us about the next couple of days or week.
Well, I had my savings with me when I left the army. They gave me a lot of cash, and that I'd saved while I was in the army, and I said I was going to put this in the post office savings account that I had. And he said, "No, son, don't put it in there." He said, "I'll look after it. You don't have to stand in line or wait for them to open." He said, "You want money?" He said, "I can give it to you."
And it was like 260 pounds?
300 pounds.
Well, significant. That's a fair amount of money, huh?
So I did, and then when I asked him for money, he wanted to pay a couple of bills first out of it, so he did. And I said, "Go ahead, he's my dad, and he's my help." And then when I asked him for some money, he said he'd lost it. What can you do?
Wow. Talk about adding insult to injury, huh?
And I was the only one working there. I got a job on the railway in High Wycombe. I used to go on by the bus every day. He charged me rent.
Wow. And you had to share a bed with a guy?
With a lodger who didn't work.
Oh my God.
And it was like, what on earth have I done? And even the neighbour next door was shaking her head,
And you said when you worked for the railway, you didn't have a roof over your head.
Well, he kicked me out. I came home from the bus one day, and it was a cold, sort of miserable, fine rain. And I walked away from the bus stop up to the house, and got back to the back of the house. There was not one light on in the house. I thought that was odd. But when I got round the back there, I noticed my suitcase was by the back door with a note on it saying, "Don't want you anymore."
Don't want you anymore. Oh my God.
And I banged on the door, hoping to get attention, but nothing. So I picked the case up and put the note in my pocket and went back to catch the last bus back to High Wycombe. And went back there, and that's when I was crossing the railway lines to get to the signal box where I worked, and tripped over, and I just lay there like, I don't give a shit what happens now, and I just didn't know. I was just drained. And then I could hear the shouting and someone with a flashlight, and then I could feel the railway tracks moving up and down, and an express train was coming. And Percy saw me, and he had the hindsight to get my attention, and I got up. As soon as I got up, this express train flew past me. And within minutes, I would have, seconds, I would have been dead. And I got up, I walked up the stairs, he chewed me out when I got up. They said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And I gave him this note. And he said, "Sit down, I'll make you a cup of tea."
We'll sort it out.
And I sat down there, and he read this note. He says, "Now you know the reason he got you out of the army is because you're able to work and earn money to look after him. Not that he's been looking for you."
I call Lester Morris's life the Odyssey, because the intensity of his experiences compared to what Odysseus had to go on his 10-year journey. Imagine that. Lester reached the point where he was laying next to the tracks, and if this was a Hollywood movie, and it could be, this is the point where the hero almost loses it, almost dies, and has to get up and wipe the sweat and blood from his brow and make a determination that he's gonna solve the problem. Well, in fact, Lester has done that in his life, and he became a tour guide in Europe and England, and a very, very successful one, because as you can tell, he's a superior storyteller. And he entertains people with warmth and wit. And as a tour guide, our audience, Lester, they think I brought you over today from London, but in fact, you live right here in Austin, Texas. He met his wife, Valerie.
Leader of the opposition.
The leader of the opposition. Happy birthday, Valerie. And found his way to Austin, Texas. Now, Lester, now that we're on the subject of women, I hope Valerie doesn't mind if we go back to you, to the Third Orphanage, where you got a job as a projectionist.
Well, carrying on from the railway there, I had nowhere to sleep because the father came back. So I used to wait on platform 1 for them to back the railway carriages in for the night from the train. And so I'd wait for a warm train to carriages so I could get in first class. I was sleeping in first class.
Sleeping in first class.
And then the station master called me into his office one day, and he said, "I've got a note here, I've got a telegram from Colonel Burney from the Church of England Children's Society in London, saying report to Hunstanton, and he got you a railway warrant ticket there, and start again."
Wow.
And that's where I started back to Hunstanton, and that was the best orphanage I was in. And the eldest, when I became 16, 15 you're kicked out because that's when you leave school. I stayed on an extra year because I didn't have any education. And the oldest boy in the orphanage, 16, was always given the job assistant projectionist in the cinema. So I learned how to do the movie stuff and all that. And there was a young lady who used to walk around with a light on, selling ice creams and stuff like that from a little tray that she carried. And my job was to put the spotlight on her and follow her around, you know. And as I used to follow her around, it was like, oh, yeah, you know. I didn't know what to do with her anyway, if I had to. So, I asked her one day when I was in the cafe, can I see you home one night? She said, yeah. And I was surprised. So this one night when we arranged it, I had her bicycle and I had a bicycle, and she lived at the next village, 3 miles from there. And she said, do you want to go the road or along the beach, the track? You know, I said, let's go along the beach track. You know, so she said, okay. So we went along there. And she got off and started walking, and then she was swinging her hand. I was just behind her, and I was trying to do an 18T reach out and grab her, you know, but I just hadn't got the courage. I've never done it before. And then eventually she threw her back down and just laid on the beach. She said, oh, isn't this lovely, with the waves trickling in. And I laid next to her. And all of a sudden she said to me, you going to do anything? I said, well, I don't know. And I'm digging my heels in and playing with sand in my hand and all that. And then she said, well, are you going to kiss me? So I leaned over and on the cheek, and that was it. She said, is that it? And I said, well, I you know. And then she grabbed hold of my hand and put it right on her titty. And there it was, wherever she landed, it never moved.
Life-altering experience, huh?
I know, and it was like, oh my God, what do I do now? And I was digging my heels into the sand like I was burying myself, you know. And then all of a sudden she stripped the bra or whatever it was, and it was on bare titty.
Ah.
I mean, I was uncontrollable, and I thought I was going to explode down below there, you know. And I just didn't know what to do. And she said, what are you going to do? And I said, she got up, she said, "Oh, you're hopeless." And got on her bike and off she went. And I remember standing there watching a little red light fading off in the distance, shouting just like that movie Shane, you know, "Susan, Susan, come back!" and that was my first incident with a young lady. And it wasn't until I joined the regular army that in Plymouth, where the Mayflower set off for Texas and got lost.
Oh, got lost in New England. You know.
Yeah, the captain had a patch over each eye. and I ended up with my first encounter when having sexual encounter or dipping my bread with a woman with a nymphomania. And that's not a name of a country. This is
Not a country in Europe.
This is a name that, I mean, and it was, and I woke my best friend up in Plymouth at 3:30 in the morning, and I said, Max, guess what? He said, "What?" I said, "I dip my bread." "Tell me in the morning." I said, "It is the morning, it's 3:30. Tell me in the night morning, you know." And so the next day, I told
You
him.
were celebrating, huh?
And, oh yeah.
You tell me she put you through the paces, right?
Oh, she did, yeah. I learned a lot from her, and then I couldn't get rid of her.
Oh, well.
Then I get sent to Cyprus for 3 years, where the only women you had to pay for.
That was in the British Army,
Different story altogether. That's,
country of Cyprus.
yeah.
And you had charge of Makarios' golden cane, you told me.
Yeah, this was when we signed over the island back to them, and he wanted it back. We said, "Okay, you can have it," you know. So there was a big feast, and Hugh Foot, the governor, and that had a big function. And I got the seating at the table and the menu, and all the dignitaries, and I got their signatures. And even Archbishop Makarios, who was the communist leader, signed in red, like the communists do. And I've got his signature. And
So we have a little Greek reference, which we like to have at least one Greek reference on every show. So thank you for talking about Archbishop Makarios.
Well, I had to, my job was to take his staff, because you can't have that on your lap while you're sitting eating. Got it. My life had a solid gold top on it. And he looked at me and he thought, "I'm not giving it to him," you know. But I took it off him. And Scotland Yard police were doing the security. And while they were eating, some of the Scotland Yard people were playing snooker. And I walked in with this and I said, "Oh, you can have a game with this?" I said, "No, I've got to look after." They said, "Use that." So I was using the Archbishop's cue
To shoot billiard balls?
I thought,
With a golden, wow.
And then when I gave it back to him, he immediately looked at the top to see if it was all there. And I hadn't filed any off, or, you know. Excuse me.
Oh, I see, yeah. Well, Lester, you did a lot of, in one of your careers, you became a tour guide in Europe, and you met Valerie doing that, and you arrived in Texas at what year? How old were you about when you got here?
It was
You said 33 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, in 1984 I came.
84. Did you have any? What were your first thoughts about this place, or what are your impressions of life on this side of the Atlantic?
Well, when it gets really hot, I can understand why we gave the country back to you. Yeah, but it's all right, except for the hot Japalinos they put in Mexican food. I mean, they bring your butt up to your elbows and walking around like a penguin shouting epidural all day. You know? But I can't get used to those very hot Japalinos. But apart from that, you know, it's tolerable.
Mm-hmm. And you've been, like I said, you were a famous Santa Claus for many years. Maybe you're still going to do that. I think you've considered retirement several times. And what's the key to being, other than having the white hair, the beard, being a little rotund or something. What's the key to being a good Santa? How do you pull that one off?
Well, it's being, sort of kind to children and listening to them, and I think it's just the approach and your attitude towards them. Most children, if they're a Santa Claus fan, they will, you don't need any introduction. They will come up to you, and it's embarrassing sometimes, even if you're not dressed as Santa, they come up and...
Oh, so sometimes kids come up to you with the white beard?
There was a woman in the store, and they got this young child there, and the young child was staring at me, tugging at her mum's dress and all that. And I looked at her, and she said, "What's your name?" I said, "Engelbert Dinkerhump." She said, "No, he's not." And then the mother said, "Why are you talking to him like that?" She said, "He's Santa, and he told me you were dingle. And she said, "Are you Santa?" I said, "No, not today." But that kid spotted, and I gave her a picture. I said, "Here we are," So she was at ease then.
Yeah, and you've made several appearances on local TV, reading The Night Before Christmas, and
Right.
in your Santa getup. Or I could say maybe you are the real Santa.
You never know, do you? I know where you live.
I think your childhood would have contributed to you having a love, appreciation for children, and it's been great having you on the show, Lester. You've written several books, so we can encourage our viewers to get The Violets Are Mine, Tales of an Unwanted Orphan, and you have the...
It's on Kindle, by the way.
Kindle.
And the Did You Knows of England.
The Did You Knows, so if you go to Amazon.com,
Right.
The other book is called The Did You Knows of
England.
And it's a fascinating book that explains where a lot of...
Phrases, sayings, and words, and nursery rhymes
yeah, I've enjoyed that
that
book
we
too.
use in everyday life that we take for granted. But a lot of people don't know where they came from, And in the tour business, I use that a lot.
You employ that. I bet you were probably the best tour guide as well as the best Santa. Well, thanks for coming on All the Buzz. And
Been a pleasure. And you're a good friend, and I wish you success with it.
thanks so much.
And one day we can talk about history. Hey.
Yeah. Well, we got your childhood taken care of, at least a portion of it today. That was a good achievement. So thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you next time at All the Buzz, or check us out online, allthebuzzonline.com. My name is John Theophanis. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you and Lester Morris. Thank you.
John Theophanis.
That's it.